So it looks like the unsub brought in a knife, cut out the eyes, roasted them on a spit, and then ate them. It's real messed up. So this f***ed up f***er here, he took out the eyeballs and ate them. What the f*** is happening? Oh, this is f***ing weird. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Criminal Minds Evolution Season 2, Episode 1, Gold Star. So we're back, and yes, I'm still keeping it Criminal Minds Evolution, even though it does say Criminal Minds Season 17. I think they might have even changed the title card that pops up back to Criminal Minds. I'll have to pay attention and see if they did that in the next episode. But I'm still calling it Criminal Minds Evolution because this still feels like its own show. Even though it is continuing on with the same characters from the original series, it still feels like a new show. The fact that it's all connected to one big story, the fact that it's more mature by far, there's a lot of things that makes this show feel different, even though it is technically the same show. So if anything, I'm considering this just a sequel series to the original show, which I think is perfectly fine to consider it that. If you don't want to consider it that, that's also fine. But I do look at this show as its own separate thing. And it's something that I've really enjoyed so far. The first season was a lot of fun. Second season kicked off with a pretty good start. But before we actually get into the review of the episode, I did want to first address something that was kind of funny but also annoying. And that is during the commercial breaks, because I don't have the commercial-free version of Paramount Plus, they were showing me commercials of all kids shows for Criminal Minds Evolution. I don't get it. It's Paw Patrol, it's Dora the Explorer, it's Monster High, shows that I do not want to be seeing commercials for because they're annoying, and unfortunately I don't have a remote that I can easily mute whenever those pop up, so I just have to sit here and suffer. So I don't know exactly why that's happening, but yeah, it's kind of funny to think about. But getting into this episode, it's a great setup for this season. The Gold Star Killer, it's a good concept. What it's actually going to lead to, I don't know, and there is a lot of good mystery surrounding this. I know most of the time for Criminal Minds, it's not really about the whodunit, it's more so about the why. But with this story, the why has a lot of different factors that could be the driving force behind why the killer's doing this, why there are secrets and cover-ups going on within the government itself, why they're willing to work with Elias Voigt instead of turning to the BAU to try to catch this guy. There's so many things that I have questions about that I think are perfectly set up for this season. Off the top of my head, the one that makes the most sense to me is that this was a government-trained assassin, maybe by the CIA, that has gone rogue and has now basically gone insane and started killing all these people as part of their mission. And so that would be something that the government would obviously want to cover up, that they are kind of the ones that unleashed this monster onto the public. But that's just the first idea that I had. There are several others that are popping to mind, a terrorist organization, something along those lines. Maybe somehow spies are involved. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff when you think about the idea that the government doesn't want information about this killer to get out. There's a lot of possibilities that I think are very exciting to explore, and I really hope they take advantage of that and they don't make it something kind of stupid as far as the reason why the government wants to cover this up. But outside of that, you also once again have a lot of these personal stories getting involved, which still are pretty weak in my opinion. The stuff with Tara and Rebecca, still really not that interesting. I don't remember the full story, but I do remember that it involved Rebecca basically convicting the wrong person, and the team had to essentially expose that and show that she was wrong in her prosecution. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember that's the reason why Rebecca and Tara kind of split last season and why there's this animosity between the two of them. And I still just find that story very uninteresting because Rebecca's clearly in the wrong. She did her job poorly. She didn't do the correct thing, and the team fixed that. That's not on Tara. That is not on her to not fix your mistakes because you don't want to be embarrassed. Like, basically, you have to accept responsibility for your actions, and she doesn't want to, and that, to me, makes her an entirely pathetic character. We also have a little bit with Penelope and Tyler Green coming back. Obviously, he's going to be helping out the team, so he's going to be heavily involved this season, and it's still just not that interesting. The romance between the two of them felt sort of forced in the first season, and he threw in the story that was going to compromise his credibility as a witness to everything. It just made it even more stupid. And so the fact that they're bringing him back, yes, they've taken out that story about him losing credibility and tainting the investigation because that investigation has basically been thrown out, but I still just don't find their relationship, their chemistry, I guess, that interesting. I don't think it really works either. But the two most interesting storylines by far are what's going on with Prentice and with Rossi. With Rossi, he's now starting to see Voight in his mind. He's starting to hallucinate that he's there, and he's starting to talk to him. as well. So clearly what Voight did to him in the first season has really severely affected him. And I think that's got a lot of potential as far as where Rossi's story is going to go this season. And then for Prentiss, she is trying to do her best to fix this whole thing, to solve this on her own, because she does feel responsible for what happened in the first season with the team, with Bailey. She is taking a lot of responsibility on herself, even though it's not really her fault, but that's just kind of who Prentiss is. She does look at a lot of what goes on at the BAU and a lot of the cases they take on. And because she's the leader, because she's the head of the team, she thinks that anything that goes wrong is on her. So it's not necessarily the most interesting story, because we have seen this type of story done before with other leaders and other teams that solve crimes and stuff and other shows. But I still think there's a lot they could do with Prentiss this season, because you've got that scene about halfway through whenever Rossi sort of loses his cool after they find out about Voight's deal. You have that conversation between the two of them that I think really showcases where both of them are right now. You know, Rossi is not okay. He's barely holding it together after what happened in the first season, and Prentiss is trying to do too much on her own, and they both let each other know that. And I think it's very well handled. I think the conversation between the two, the dialogue between the two, I think it was very well written, and it made a lot of sense. But yeah, it's a really good start to the season. I'm excited to see where this story is going to go. I will say that I'm going to be doing 2 episodes at a time instead of doing 3, and then 2 and 2, just because I like to keep it even, and on top of that, it does give me more videos for a 10-episode season. But I will say I will be able to talk maybe in a bit more detail for each episode without making the videos too incredibly long. So with all that said, we'll hop into the second episode. I'll see you guys there. And now episode 2, Contagion. Well, this one got real interesting because not to make things political, but there are some real world implications to what Elias is talking about at the end of this episode. There are some people out there who were convinced that there was this one guy that was really, really evil. The only way to stop him was to kill him. And so they tried. He's not wrong in what he's saying. So that's as far as I'll go on that topic. Because again, I don't want to make this video political, and I know everybody's going to have their theories on either side and their opinions on either side. There's no point in discussing it because most of us are set in our ways and we're not going to change our minds because that's just where we are right now. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept though. The fact that Gold Star and seemingly this kid, Aiden, I think that his name was, are being convinced of this problem that they dealt with, even though it may not be entirely true. And so now they're buying into it 100%. I guess for some reason, Gold Star, I don't know what he's convinced of, but he's going around killing all these people because he's convinced that's what he has to do. So it definitely raises a lot of interesting questions that I'm excited to see them explore throughout the season. The stuff with Luke here at the end, I don't know what that's all supposed to be about. I also don't know if he's being for real in his reaction to what Elias whispered into his ear, because there's a part of me that's wondering, is he just playing it up, pretending to give in to him, so that way maybe Elias lets his guard down a little bit, or was he actually pissed off about what Elias told him? Because the thing is, Elias was just talking about conspiracy theories and convincing somebody what they said was true, and so it's weird to me that with that in mind, Luke automatically buys into what he says. So I feel like there's something maybe a bit more there that we're not really seeing at the moment, and I'm curious to see what that's going to be. As far as everything else in this episode, we'll take it bit by bit. First of all, the stuff with Prentiss and Rossi, pretty good. You know, it's kind of continuing on from where we saw last episode, where they're kind of trying to keep each other accountable. And in this one, Prentiss is very tunnel vision, thinking this has to be Gold Star because she so desperately wants to catch him. Whereas Rossi's trying to look at it maybe a bit more open-minded with the idea that there are similarities, but there are also things that make it seem like it's not Gold Star. And so obviously that causes conflict. And I think it's pretty realistic conflict based on the pressure that Prentiss is feeling. I think it's natural that she would want it to be Gold Star. And so that bias in her mind is convincing her this is what it is. And what I also find interesting is that Rossi almost admits in this episode that he's seeing Elias everywhere. We're seeing that he's doing his best to stay focused on what's real and what's not. And maybe because he's just a bit older, a bit more experienced, maybe he's able to find that focus a bit better than Emily is. I'm not sure. It is a really interesting setup that they're handling well as far as the conflict that's being created between these two. On top of that, we got the stuff with Tara and Rebecca and Tyler going on this little stakeout. That was probably the weakest part, although Tyler's reaction to them starting to bicker did make me laugh. I will give it that, is they brought some humor there. The rest of it is pretty annoying. You know, Tara and Rebecca are still just not that interesting to me. Then Tyler decides he's going to take things into his own hands and finds these passports inside this office. I don't really know how all of this is connected just yet. I feel like he knows some stuff that he's not letting onto the team right now, but it does, in my opinion, weaken his character a little bit because Rossi had this talk with him about not being a lone wolf, working with the team and all this in the last episode. And then in this one, he's like, I'm going to do my own thing and work on my own. It just feels like it weakens his character for me. But I think that's about it for this episode. And kind of similar to the first season, I do like the fact that we are getting sort of these one-off cases that are still connected to our main story. You know, this kid, I'm assuming it's somehow going to be connected because, again, it seems like he was convinced of something, of this conspiracy in his mind, and he was acting on that, similar seemingly to what Goldstar is going through. And I don't know if Elias had a hand in this. I don't know if he's the one that convinced all these people of these conspiracies. But it's a different topic that I don't think they've really tackled that much before. And like I said, it sets up for a pretty interesting story overall to see how this is all going to play in, what the answers to some of these questions are that they're raising. They've done a really, really good job of catching my interest so far. So props to the writing team for really bringing in this interesting story. I also did see that apparently there are going to be new episodes dropping next month, so I guess they did get approved for another season. I don't know if that means this one's also going to end on a bit of a cliffhanger, but I am curious to see where else they can take this story. It seems to be all connected to Elias and what he's done. So I don't know if that means they're setting up for him to continue being sort of the main bad guy for season 3. Because right now, even though Goldstar is the unsub they're going after, it still feels like Elias has his hand in this somehow. Like he's the one sort of pulling the strings of Goldstar, and maybe he's the one that set all of that up to basically make himself invaluable because he's the only one that has all the answers about who this guy is. But with all that being said, those are my thoughts on the first 2 episodes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these first 2? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Criminal Minds Evolution reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on here as well as some Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you all later. Peace out.